Ladies and gentlemen, what makes a great game? A question humanity has been asking since the dawn of time. Is it the gameplay? Graphics perhaps? Wrong. It's actually innovation. Okay, now hold your horses. Let me explain, okay? Basically, the phenomenon of when the developers make the ballsy move of taking actual risks in order to stand out and create something new. Just to be clear, I call this a phenomenon because it is extremely rare nowadays for developers to do this. I mean, why would you want to reinvent the wheel when the formula that you have already makes you a shit ton of money? Unless we're talking indie games, most studios play it safe. So anyway, I'm gonna talk about some of my favorite games. I would like to point out that we will not pick them based on how perfect they are, but we will pick them based on, first, innovation. This is one of the most important things. And second, the fact that the developers were going in the right direction, and we need more of that. We will also put them into a tier list because why the hell not? Tier lists are fun. And without further ado...
Don't worry, I'll tuck you back in. You and I, we're polar opposites.
Dude, this game right here is what all action-adventure games should strive to be in terms of gameplay. You play as Jean, a disabled man. Your arm gets cut off for being a good Samaritan and saving a girl's life. However, your act of bravery does not come unrewarded. She gives you the God Hand, which is basically an arm that gives you cool superpowers. Then you're off hunting demons, edgelords, members of the LGBTQ, strippers, and the President of the United States.
Eating the dogs.
We also have our good friend Olivia with us, which she always bullies us, and we can't do anything to her because she's the one who gave us the God Hand. But no worries, Jean takes his frustration out on the enemy girls. Immediately, I want to touch on the gameplay because that is where the innovation is. Now, the developers made the extremely controversial design choice of limiting mobility. They made Jean operate on tank control. The right stick on the controller is exclusively for dodging, and the left is for both the camera and the movement. Now, because of the limited movement, dealing with crowd control becomes very difficult. But once it clicks, the results are Tekken, but action-adventure. It also has this feature where you could chain single moves together, and let me tell you, the fact that other games don't do this is a travesty of game design. The more you progress the game, the more you unlock new moves. There are 114 single moves in the game, and the order you chain these moves together is entirely up to you. We also have to talk about the difficulty system, which is so creative. To put it simply, it has a level system. The better you do, the higher it goes. There are 4 levels. Level 1, 2, 3, and
level die.
And if you reach this level, unless you have like 1,000 hours in the game, you are expected to die. Not because the enemy's health rises. No. Nothing lazy like that. But rather, they will do moves you have never seen before.
I prefer not to comment.
They become aggressive, faster, and occasionally more enemies will show up. If it is too difficult, you could always grovel, and it makes the level go down. The Ezel boss fight in this game is still top 3 boss fights of all time. Also, this game did QTEs correctly. The pummel QTE in this game is still the best QTE I've ever seen in all of gaming. Now, this game unfortunately did not do well because of bad reviews. Apparently, IGN has given this game a 3 out of 10. Let's go and see why they did not like it, shall we? Enemy design is extremely generic. It's an extremely tedious. The most annoying aspect about this is that you'll often have to... Honestly, after reading all that, I've come to the conclusion that this is clearly rage bait and I'm not even going to entertain this. This game definitely deserves S tier. The fighting mechanic is peak innovation.
Ladies and gentlemen!
Who's the boss now, my waspy little friend? Answer the question!
Ah, bully. Rockstar's hidden gem. The audacity on these people to completely abandon one of the most immersive games they've ever made. Truly a tragedy.
Hit them in the balls!
So in this game you play as Jimmy Hopkins, a teenager who gets sent to a corrupt boarding school filled with bullies and crooked teachers. Immediately you meet Gary, a member of the National Socialist Party whose mission is to take over the entire school.
Heil Hitler, bitch!
Who soon after immediately betrays you and forces you to fight Dave Bautista's son. Then you decide to take over the entire school for yourself by beating all the school factions. And once and for all, stopping Gary's evil plans of bringing back the Third Reich. Did I mention this game takes place in a school? Now in this game, on the surface, it might not seem like there's much innovation. It might just seem like GTA, but in school. But that's not the case here. In Bully, the innovation is the unique setting itself, plus the great immersion. Having a game set in a school might sound boring at first, but because of all the creative little details put into this game, it is super immersive and has a very nostalgic vibe that reminds you of the good old days.
Refreshing, ain't it?
For example, this game has a timed day and night cycle that, unlike most open world games, doesn't feel like a timeless loop. Because you have classes you need to attend, you have curfew that if you do not abide by will have consequences. Teachers will bust you for skipping classes, and you take girls out on a date. The environment changes as the story goes on, like for example, there's a Halloween section. Oh, and one little detail that I love about the Halloween section is that some of the students wear a face mask of the lunch lady, which is totally understandable because just look at her. There is also a Christmas setting, which is so well done in this game. If you walk around in goofy clothes, the students laugh at you. Also, there is a finite number of characters in this game, and every one of them has their own unique quirks and attributes. And this is truly genius because it makes the characters feel less like an NPC.
I just speak this way because I'm very insecure.
And my absolute favorite thing about this game is that it's genuinely funny.
I'm going to pound you like my dad pounds me.
Sometimes we're just walking around and some character out of nowhere says something diabolical.
I'm gonna get you.
Get my man. That didn't sound gay, did it?
Couple these with some fun mini games and the amazing soundtrack, all together is immersion perfection. You know, the other day I was thinking, why would Rockstar risk creating a new game? The logical thing to do would be to keep making GTA games. After all, that game is guaranteed to always sell well, right?
Lester the molester.
Because Bully truly was a risk. Setting the game in a school meant there would be children involved, which created two major issues. First is gameplay limitations. You can't kill anyone in Bully. You can't use extreme violence. And you can't give the player the same freedom you have in GTA. All of these made the game less appealing by comparison. And the second issue is, your reputation will be tarnished because people don't react well to a game that involves harming children. And that's exactly what happened because Rockstar faced a lot of backlash because of this game.
This person doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
But you know, sometimes it shouldn't be about the money. It should be about taking risks in order to create unique experiences. We'll put this one in A tier. The school setting is definitely something we need more of. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, the game where From Software created the perfect formula for what? How a sword fighting mechanic in a game should work. You play as Wolf, also a disabled man. Your arm gets cut off by the king of all edgelords, Genichiro. Damn, lots of protagonists with disabilities in this list. But anyway, Wolf is a disgraced shinobi tasked with protecting the Prince? Which he fails because Genichiro kidnaps your cute femboy twink. Then your mission is to save him. On your mission, you fight monkeys, dragons, your abusive stepdad, and Ishin the Glock Saint, one of the coolest bosses ever created. No cap. Now the thing is, in most games that include sword fighting, usually they rely heavily on dodging. Even in most From Software games, this is the case. The way it works is, you hit the boss once, then dodge, hit again until the enemy is dead. Now, this is not a terrible way to handle a flow of a fight, but it is inferior to the way Sekiro handles fights. Dodging is an option in Sekiro, but it comes secondary to the main tool that you use, which is parrying. In Sekiro, the moment you engage your enemy, you flow into this back and forth battle that feels so rewarding. Because it's not just you who parries attacks. Your opponents can too. And you can't parry all their attacks because they attack you in different ways. For example, you have to jump sweep attacks. You have to dodge grab attacks. You can also Mikiri counter the thrust attacks. Combined with the amazing sound effect of the parrying, altogether results in an orchestrated fight that is so memorable. You won't find that experience in any other game. Now, because like I said, the enemies can parry as well, especially the bosses, you barely get a hit on them, which means aiming for the health bar is not a good idea. But that's fine because this game has a posture mechanic. You don't necessarily have to aim for the health bar. If your parries are on point, once the posture meter gets full, the boss staggers, then you hit them with a critical strike that takes the entire health bar. Another great aspect is, unlike previous From Software games, where you could overwhelm the bosses by overleveling your character, well, you can't do that here because there are no stats. That's right, it's purely skill based. You have no choice but to adapt to the boss's fighting style. Either get good or get shit on. Literally. To be honest, the sword fighting in this game is like a chain of QuickTime events and it's absolutely genius. I also gotta shout out the Sekiro fandom for creating absolutely amazing mods for this game. I mean, just look at this. What the hell's happening? You know, I gotta hand it to From Software. They have their own unique style of game design, and they don't change their entire formula, but they never miss. All their games have a good amount of innovation. But I gotta say, their best to this day is still Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. And by the way, do you guys hear that? That's the sound of Bloodborne players fuming and cursing my entire bloodline. Jeez, guys, calm down. Bloodborne is good as well.
And you treat us like dogs.
Anyway, this game is S tier. We definitely need more games where parrying is the main focus. Batman Arkham Knight. Let me tell you something. To this day, out of all the Batman adaptations, including most of the movies, nothing captures the feeling of Gotham like this one. It's not even a contest. The noir, dark, gritty feeling of Gotham, the constant rain, the dark alleys, beating mentally unstable people. This is what Batman is all about. The way Batman jumps off rooftops is full of the exaggerated swagger of a mentally unstable billionaire with severe PTSD.
Look out! It's the Bat!
Okay, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. We're here to talk about innovation. Now, you might have guessed it. The innovation is the extremely controversial Batmobile. Now, I know this is against popular opinion, but I honestly believe that the Batmobile is a great idea. The fact that it was not just a car that drives you from place to place, but it was integrated into puzzles, combat, and boss encounters. Now, although I believe it's a great future, but I think we needed less of it. Now, I know this is contradictory, but let me elaborate, okay? The developers were very confident that the Batmobile would be very popular, so they bet it all, and a large portion of the game consisted of the Batmobile gameplay. Now, because the other aspects of this game were so well made, downright more fun than the actual Batmobile gameplay, I unfortunately started to hate the Batmobile. And I think I'm speaking for everyone when I say that the fighting and the Predator sections of this game were much more fun than the Batmobile stuff.
What if I just turn around right now and see Bat?
Now, I'm not saying they should have gotten rid of it, only to reduce playtime with it, and instead put more effort into areas where the game was lacking. And in this case, it was the lack of boss fights. Why boss fights, you're asking? I want to touch on this a little bit because I don't think people realize how important boss fights can be in a game. Like for me personally, my #1 requirement for a very memorable and great action-adventure story is antagonists that push the protagonist to the limit, and you make me feel that through a boss fight. Because no matter how much you hype them up with cutscenes and you make them look scary, he will not feel threatening unless you make me fight him and you make him hard to fight. Like, for an antagonist, what we want is to create suspense and to create tension. How do we create that? There are a bunch of conditions that we need to establish. First, you make me fight him one-on-one, make the character hard to fight, create cinematic sequences during the fight, and make me fight him multiple times. Now, believe it or not, my favorite Arkham game is not actually Arkham Knight. It's Arkham Origins. I know, shocker, but there are a lot of reasons why I think it's the best. But the biggest one is that this was the only Arkham game that made me feel like Batman was not invincible. He felt vulnerable because of the many well-made boss fights in this game. That is what Arkham Knight needed to be. Arkham Knight is the perfect example of a bad antagonist. Because he's hyped up to be very nasty. He shit talks you all the time, knows all your secrets, outsmarts you multiple times. But what's the point of doing all that if you're not gonna make me feel it through a boss fight? Now, to take away from this game is still amazing. I mean, just look at this comparison to Gotham Knight. Unbelievable. Mind you, this game was made 7 years after Arkham Knight. All I'm saying is they just needed to shift their focus a little bit and the game would have been even more legendary. We'll put this one in B tier. This game really made me feel like Batman. So, Yakuza 0 is an open-world crime drama set in 1980s Japan. A time where the Japanese economy is at an all-time high, and every Japanese male above the age of 15 has beef with you for some reason. You play as two characters. First we have Kiryu Kazuma, a virgin who gets falsely accused of murder, then plans to find the people who are responsible and make them pay. On the sides, you run a real estate business, and as any business owner, you hire the best staff and you try to beat your competitors. Not by outperforming them, no, but by giving each of them brain damage. Even the female business owners. The second character you play is Goro Majima, a man who gets tasked with assassinating a girl, but instead of going through with it, falls in love with the fine shit. On the sides, you run a cabaret club, in which you dress up girls in pretty dresses and put makeup on them. Truly the pinnacle of game innovation. Also, these guys don't kill, but they will give you lifelong injuries that are worse than death. In Yakuza 0, the innovation is the way they handled the open world. Nowadays, most game studios, when they make open world games, they compete to create the biggest open world with the biggest map. Now, the problem here is, although the scale is impressive, but it's mostly empty with not a lot to do. So what Yakuza did right was creating a small map that is dense with side activity. Seriously, you can't go 20 meters in this game without some random shit happening. 1 second you are speaking to some guy, and 10 minutes later you are protecting Michael Jackson from zombies. On my playthrough, many times I've forgotten what was happening in the main story because I was so invested in the side activity. Some examples of what you could do in this game, like running a real estate business, running a cabaret club, disco, karaoke, pocket circuit racing, dating girls minigame, dart, pool, and a lot of side missions where you meet weird people. Combine all the fun side stuff with a very well written main story and some amazing boss fights, like for example the Massive Man or Chinese Men, and you get a recipe for a very well designed game. The fighting system is not anything new, it's been done before, but the best thing about it is the amount of unique animations. There is one for every scenario, like this ledge in one of the missions, or any item you find, like this orange. This game is also a testament to having patience because it came out in 2015, but became popular later in 2020, mostly because of the memes. Just goes to show that just because your work did not gain immediate success, doesn't mean it's a failure. Anyway, this game is A tier. More open world games need to fill their maps with fun side activities, rather than focusing on scale. Welcome to the 2000s era. An era of manliness, because every game villain had a deep voice.
The Roman invasion of Greece Nice.
We really need to bring that back. Guys, let me introduce you to a game about chaos. It's 300 BC and the Romans have begun their conquest of Sparta. You play as a nameless Spartan. Immediately you are put into battle, led by the legendary leader Leonidas.
King Leonidas.
Leonidas? As you can tell, this game is historically accurate because you fight Medusa, Leviathan creatures, and the Romans speak perfect English.
He thought he could prevail by pure force. George is a difficult little cunt.
In this game, the innovation is the way they handle the large-scale wars. In most action-adventure games that include sword fighting, it usually does not capture the feeling of war. Mostly because it's not that crowded and the battles are mostly one-on-ones. But this is not the case here because in this game, most of the battles are very crowded, with not just you alone. You have an entire army on your side as well. And they aren't there just for show, they kill enemies as well. And the moment you engage battle, it very soon becomes messy, which is very accurate because real wars are like that. Alright boys, let me show you what my favorite thing to do in this game. The devs threw in some spice to the game, like fighting with magic weapons and some monsters. Couple these with some amazing voice acting. And voila, you get a very well made chaotic war simulation. And keep in mind, the ideas implemented here were all in an experimental stage. There is so much more you could do with this game, like for example, you could make it more realistic. No superpowers, but instead just an average soldier with a much closer camera. Like For Honor, but way more crowded. And I understand in the 2000s, characters were low poly and you could make the game crowded without hurting performance. In modern games, this could be an issue. I'm not sure, I'm not a developer. However, if they find a way around it, there's a lot of potential here. So the studio for this game is Creative Assembly. They are mostly making strategy turn-based games right now, but I wish they made a modern action-adventure game because they were messing around with some amazing ideas in this game. We'll put this one in A tier. Like, I'm just putting this out there. If any studio wants to stand out, the market right now heavily lacks an action-adventure game with large-scale battles. And with that being said, that's all I have for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to let me know if you guys wanted part 2 because there are a lot of games out there that have tons of great innovation that we did not mention. So, peace.
Elephant green screen effect.